So we have seen if conditions, conditionally executing code. One of the complicated part about if is the condition itself. We have not seen complicated conditions, but they often come in programming in general. So in this session, what we are going to do is we're going to look at some of the combinational conditions, etc. Bit more complicated conditions. And we will see some of the nested ifs can be rewritten using combinational conditions. Some other things with the combinational conditions get complicated and difficult to think it around. Something like a brain teaser. Even today, I feel difficulty when the conditions are too much, too long. I use debugger to evaluate. It is very difficult to do the mental calculation. Let's have a look at it in the code. So this time we are directly going into the code and then to the slides. So I have introduced a couple more variables here. One is a rain today, the one we had before, and temperature, humidity. So we have 3 variables. Now what we are going to do is we are going to evaluate a couple of conditional operations. So the first one we are doing is just for warm up, we are doing simple ones. Temperature equal to 100. So we know that this will evaluate to false. The result is going to be false. So I'm going to put a breakpoint here and going to run it, start debugging. So this is false. We were expecting this, no surprises. Temperature is 30. Let me close this once. So temperature is 30 and not equal to 100. So this is going to be false, and it is indeed false. Now, again, result, I'm going to use the same result variable for all purposes. Temperature less than or equal to 100. I'm restarting the program. So initially it is going to be false, then it is going to be true. So this is all straightforward. Greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, all we have seen. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another condition along with this one. So let me comment this out, equal to 100, and so this is the and keyword right here, the and keyword, and humidity equal to 90. So what it does is this whole thing will become true only when this and this is true. So that is the and operator here. So this is the conditional and operator here. So this operator has 2 Boolean inputs. As you can see here, there are 2 Boolean inputs. Only both of those Boolean input is true, the result will be true. That is the AND operator. Let's see that. So in this case, one of the result is false. So the result is going to be false. So I'm going to put breakpoint here again. So let me restart the program. So the result is false because this condition is indeed true. So this is fine. This is true. But you can put that into the watch, add to watch. So this is true. This is indeed true. But this is false. Let's put that into the add to watch. Therefore, the result is false. Let me make the modification right here. I'm going to make it 30 to make sure that both of those conditions are true. And I'm restarting again. I'm changing the breakpoint to this line and executing till there. As you can see here, the result is true right here. If you want, you can evaluate it again, right click, add to watch. So it came here. The reason why this is true because the conditions, both of these conditions are true. Now, if you want one of these condition is true, you can use the OR operator. So there is this OR operator, just like the AND, we have the OR operator. Temperature is equal to 30 or humidity equal to 90. That's how it is taken. Now let's see that. So the first case result is true. Now I'm going to make this particular statement false. I made it 31. Now also this will be true, as you can see here. So let me close this because it doesn't reflect the numbers. If you want, you can add the watch later. The watch doesn't reflect the code change I'm doing in here. I don't want you to get confused. So this is true because this is true. Now I'm going to make this also false. I'm restarting. Now the result is false because both of this condition is false. That's why the result is false. At least one of them should be true to get this is true. Now the first one is true. We are expecting the result is true. Python has a very English-like statements like so. So this is kind of similar to equal to, but there is a slight difference. I'm not going to the details of it, but in this case, it's going to work exactly as equal to. Temperature is 30 or humidity is 91. So this is exactly reading like plain English. It is even grammatically correct from an English perspective. I don't think any other programming language can be written like this. Only Python can. So Python is very similar. So I removed equal to with ease. They are not exactly same, but for your purpose, you can believe it is same for the time being. We will discuss the difference probably when we discuss the memory management and things like that. Now you can think it is exactly equal to. Now, another thing we can do here is we can put another and here and rain today equal to 1. Now let's see how it behaves. As you can see, this is very complicated. Try to avoid this kind of things in programming. Just like this kind of statement complicate our real world communication. Do we communicate like this in real world? Probably not. If you start talking like this to your friends, they may go crazy, So just like that, in programming also, try to avoid this kind of statements. I'll tell you how to do it. In fact, sometimes it's a little being creative to avoid this kind of too many conditions. But you can have any number of conditions like this. Now let's see how it behaves. So this is kind of evaluating from right to left. So first it is checking this is true. It is indeed true. And this is false. So this entire thing is false. ORing with this temperature. And this is true. So the result is true. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this false and rerun the whole thing. The result is false. Now to make it true, I can do this. So now this whole thing will become true and OR it with this. So this is false and now the result is true. So once again, it is evaluated from right to left. First, it will evaluate this particular statement, this whole thing as a bunch, just like you did it in the beginning. And the result is getting replaced here. And the whole thing is ORed with this. So this is true. This is true. So the whole thing is true. And true is ORed with a false statement, resulting in a true statement. One more thing I would like to show you is not. So this is also very similar to English, is not. Rain today is not 1. It is actually 1. So is not 1 is going to be false. So this is going to be false. The whole thing is going to be false. False ORed with false. Result going to be false. Let's see that. So the result is false. So feel free to test all these things by yourself. Let me add to the watch. So this is false. So now if I put 2 here or any other value other than 1, is not is going to be true. Very careful. So this is called negative logic. So very careful using negative logic. You can easily get confused. Our brain doesn't work this way. So try to avoid negative logic in your programming. Is not equal to. So there is another thing called not equal to. So you can look into the definition for all the conditional operator. Probably I can put it here for your convenience. So equal to, similar to is, then greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, not equal to. This is similar to, is not. When I say similar to, it means that it is not exactly same as I mentioned before, but it is very similar, at least from this context. So these are the main conditional operator. Nothing else comes into my head right now. So these are the conditional operators available. So out of which, try to be very careful with this not. So let's see how it works. Let me add a watch here, add a watch. So this is false. If I put 2, this is true. Just like the statement before, it is true. Rain today not equal to 2. That is a true statement because a rain today is 1 at the moment. Not sure if you're able to realize the complication right here itself. When I say rain today not equal to 2 is a true statement, I can feel the complication right now when I say it out loud. So try to avoid not logic as much as possible. Sometimes it's not very avoidable. In that case, you can use it. But the main thing I would like to highlight here is you can have any number of these things in programming. 5 or 6 or 7, you never know. So any type of conditional operations like this, any number of complication, any number of nesting can come here like so. So this came inside an if, and based on whether it is evaluating to true or false, the if will get executed or not. So let's see that. So this whole thing is false, so the if is not going to get executed. So it didn't get execute. I'm going to make this 2. Starting again, F10. The result is true, so I'm going to change it here. I forgot to change it here. Again, I'm going to press F10. As you can see, it is executing right here. So the result is true. So this if condition got evaluated to a positive value, and line number 14 is getting executed. But this is a very complicated condition if you look. Before we wind up this particular session, I would like to show you one more thing. Some of the combinational conditions can be replaced using nested if conditions. One example I would like to show you is, I don't want to get into too much complication. Let me remove all this. If temperature not equal to 30 and humidity greater than 90. So this is a condition I'm having right here. Then the colon and print something is happening. In this case, we have a and condition here. So the same logic I can implement like so. If temperature not equal to 30 and in the nesting if, another if, humidity greater than 90 and the same print statement. So this and this is exactly same. I personally prefer the second one for some reason, but most of my colleagues and other programmers prefer this option. But I try to avoid these combinational and statement as much as possible unless it's very obvious. It's my way of doing it. You may get told to do this way. I prefer this way. Although it is more number of lines and things like that, this is my personal preference. I feel this is more readable for some reason than this. So one last word is play around these stuff as much as possible. Put additional conditions, use the breakpoint, use the watch window, evaluate and feel yourself comfortable with this logic part. This is one of the complication you will get into when you start programming. This conditional operations. This is going to come in loops. This is going to come in if conditions and etc.